It's week 9 in the NFL. It's Giants Raiders on Sunday, live from Sin City, Las Vegas. What's up, everybody? I'm Brandon London, and this is your Blue Rush preview show. It's your Giants show and podcast for the New York Post and SNY. And let's introduce the crew. Two-time Super Bowl champ for the Giants, Lawrence Tynes, and longtime Giants beat writer for the Post, Paul Schwartz. Fellas, later in the show, we'll hear from Graphk Raider of OLV Raider Network. But let's get straight into this. No player interviews. We don't need to break it down X's and O's because no one really cares about that. Let's be honest. It's all about the storylines. What's up, gentlemen? Paul Tynes looks like he's dressed in Raider color. He's ready. He's got the silver in the back, and then he's got the black on with the suit. What's going on, gentlemen?
I am. It's great to see you guys. I am just so happy for Antonio Pierce. I had the privilege of playing with him. What a great opportunity for him to go show what he's about. And we'll talk about him at length in the show, but one of the smartest football players I ever played with. And he's tough, right? He's from Compton, grew up a Raiders fan. He fits the mold of the silver and black. Al Davis obviously would have loved him leading his team. So this is going to be a fun matchup.
Paul, let's get into. Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah, when I saw that news early in the morning, I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Good for Antonio Pierce. And I said, oh, geez, the Giants got to play them this week. And sometimes you get an interim situation, like, man, we got him right where we want him. But we'll get into AP later. We'll get into. I covered his whole career with the Giants, and it's interesting. This is the only stadium I haven't been in, guys.
Oh,
Legion Stadium, the only stadium. So I am actually looking. The game, I'm not so sure. I am looking forward to the stadium. When I went to Minnesota for the first time, I was blown away. When I went to SoFi Stadium for the first time, I was blown away. Ford Field in Detroit, I think, is underrated. I think it's terrific. Look, when I went into AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, I was like, holy smokes, this is what a stadium looks like, huh? I mean, it looked like a palace. I'm stadium excited, maybe more than game excited at this point.
Oh, you're going to love that stadium. I was there for a Chelsea match, and I got like a behind-the-scenes tour. It's A1, absolutely A1. Paul, let's get straight into the practice report, injury updates, and let's get into talking about these storylines for this game. We can kick us off with some Antonio Pierce talk right after you finish with some injury updates, please.
Sure. Daniel Jones is back, of course. He was cleared. He's ready to roll. And, Daniel said he was excited. You could tell. You guys were players. You can tell. When you're playing, when you're not playing, it's miserable. When you're hurt, it's you can't. It's like you have no oxygen, right? You can't breathe. You have no professional oxygen to play. So, look, Daniel knows he's coming back into a tough situation. He wasn't, the team wasn't playing great when he left, but he just had a lighter feel to him. He was excited. And I asked Darius Slayton about Daniel, and he said, first ball he threw almost took my head off. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, he was really excited. And I said, what did you say to him? He said, I said, you're not throwing to the trainers anymore, pal. Slow that heater down, so this was fun stuff. You need fun stuff. It's like, whoa, Daniel, I know you're excited to be out of here. Don't take my head off, okay? That was good. He's back. Evan Neal sounds like he's going to play. He said he feels much better than he did last week. Andrew Thomas was not in the locker room Wednesday. I think he's trending to play. That's a harder read. And look, the tough one is Darren Waller. Darren Waller, it's going to be weeks, not days with Darren Waller. This is what Darren Waller said. He missed 8 games last year with a hamstring issue, right? He said, the main reason I missed 8 games last year is because I was trying to come back in 2, and I re-aggravated it 2 or 3 times in practice. I'm taking a little bit more of an approach of, okay, if it's 4 weeks, if it's 3 weeks, whatever it is, try not to be a hero and come back. Fellas, what does that say to you guys?
I mean, he may have to shut it down for the season, honestly. Give a young guy some. I mean, you got Daniel Bellinger, see what he can kind of do again in his second year. Lawrence Cager gets bumped up off the practice squad more than likely, but it's time to see what else you have out there. And that's unfortunate because that's one of those storylines of the heading into this game. He has had the opportunity to go back and play against his former team. But honestly, guys, I think no one really cares about those storylines heading around the Giants. Like, let's be honest. Yeah, Daniel's playing, but no one's excited about that. Everybody wants to see Antonio.
No, hold on. I got to stop you there. Daniel Jones in the first year of a 4-year, $160 million contract. Don't tell me his start is not important. There are a lot of games left. I mean, I think Waller will be back this season, by the way. It could be a whole month, you know what I mean, or so. But, Daniel Jones has got to play. This is not some bum quarterback who they're riding out the season with. He can make a lot more out of this season. He's going to have an offensive line, which is going to be a lot better. Last time he played, there was no Saquon Barkley out there, right? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, not having Waller is no good, but this is important for Daniel Jones. It's important for the future of the Giants. And, they're not going to make the playoffs, but they can still do some things this season. I really think so. I think Daniel Jones coming back adds something to this game.
Paul, he could throw for 300. No one's going to care. That he's going to have to he's going to have to throw for 300 for the rest of this year for people to jump on the Daniel Jones train.
You have to throw. You have to win this game, and then you play the next game. Okay, it's the Cowboys. That's a bad matchup. Then you have another winnable game. I mean, this is the first year of Daniel Jones's contract. You don't think it's important? The Giants just added a second-round pick with Leonard Williams. Now they got a first and 2 seconds. You want to start packaging picks to move up for a quarterback? Joe Shane doesn't want to have anything to do with that. So Daniel Jones has to play. Lawrence, don't you agree? I mean, this is important for Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
He's not somebody riding off into the sunset here.
No. Yeah, I think obviously the fans and everybody wants to see Daniel Jones with Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, think what you want about him, and Saquon Barkley. I actually think in a weird way, this Darren Waller injury is actually going to benefit the team. I know that sounds stupid, but I really just think it takes away. If you're the defending team, if you're the Raiders, who do you go into the game, obviously, game planning for? Saquon Barkley. But you've got Hodgins, you've got Hyatt, you've got Slayton, you've got Wandell. Daniel did his best work last year without a tight end, right? We didn't know who was getting the ball. Was it Hodgins? Was it Slayton? Was it Richie James? I think this benefits, maybe takes a little bit of pressure off Daniel to not always find and get the ball to Waller. I like this in a weird way. I know that sounds counterproductive. And then one transaction question, Paul, I had for you is Gunnar Olszewski, and my God, I probably butchered that. Is he going to be elevated back up, do you think? I mean, he had a great game. Did they put him back on the practice squad?
Yeah, he was practicing yesterday. Yeah, he's back.
Okay, so we anticipate him being elevated.
Oh, absolutely. He'll be their punt returner. Yeah.
A.J. Cole's a fantastic punter, and obviously we'll need a guy who can catch the football.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to disagree on the Darren Waller thing with you, Tynes, because if you look at the Commanders game, the Giants had pretty much their best game offensively outside of that second half of the Arizona games. If you don't have a Darren Waller who can stretch the field throughout the middle of the field, yeah, you got Jalen Hyatt on the outside, Darius Slayton, but where's that safety going to lean now? That safety's going to lean towards one of those receivers, those fast receivers, as opposed to having to stay within the hash with a threat at tight end. Daniel Bellinger is a great pass catcher, but he's not a threat when it comes to be able to catch and yak up there. So that safety's now going to have to not going to have to be within the hashes now, and he can get over there on one of those throws. So if we're talking wanting to see Daniel Jones with Andrew Thomas and Saquon, then you would want to see him added with a Darren Waller as well to see what he can actually do in this full offense.
That's fair. Yeah, we'll see. I just don't think Daniel did a good enough job, obviously, getting him the football. He had a Miami game where he was solid and got him the ball. But a lot of that work was done on the outside of the field. If you think about those drops maybe that we called them drops, the one on the left sideline, the one in the end zone. But Hyatt and Slayton can grab a safety's attention, guys. They're fast. So feature Hyatt. I think, Hyatt should have a big game here, especially going against Marcus Peters, who likes to guess a lot.
All right, now let's get into Antonio Pierce. Means so much to this Giants organization. His first head coaching game is going to be against the team he played 5 years with, won a Super Bowl with. Paul, you got a chance to cover him while you were here. Tynes, we were both teammates with him. You were with him longer. Paul, what was it like? What was AP like from the writer standpoint? What were your interactions? I see you smiling. We got some good stories coming up.
Look, from a writer standpoint, he was terrific. Like I've told you guys, good quote, bad quote. Good player, not a good quote. Not a great player, a good quote. You know, that's the way we talk about who's the new guy? They go, oh, he's a good quote. Antonio was a really good quote, but he was a little rough around the edges, you know. He had to clean up some of what he said, not because of his grammar, because of some unsuitable language for a family newspaper, right? Which is fine. You can tell he was tough. You could tell he was into it. You could tell he was really smart. I mean, really, when he broke down the game for you, you know, when I would talk to him about something, he explained it in a way where I could understand it. You know, he wasn't Xing O'ing me. He was just moving chess pieces on the board. He was really interesting. Look, I've covered a lot of players over the years, and a lot of guys were leaders in some sense. He was a leader. You could tell. He had the back of his teammates, and he wanted, if the defense played badly, he was at his locker. Come to me. Talk to me about how bad we played. You know what I mean? He was a leader, I could tell. And he was, you know, I had a really good relationship with him, but he was tough. He was tough to talk to sometimes because he was a tough guy. But and one thing I didn't like about him, he had the air horn, right? He always, when the team was playing badly, he had the air horn in the locker room. So in our 40 minutes in the locker room, every once in a while, he'd blow that darn air horn to be disruptive, to be like, man, we're not hearing this negative noise, man. I mean, Lawrence, you're laughing. You can explain what the hell the air horn was. I didn't like that, but you know what? Big deal. He was. Look, that screen pass in Green Bay in the first half, right? That's a touchdown. That's a touchdown in the first half of Lawrence Tynes' famous, you know, frozen foot game. That is a touchdown if he doesn't make that, you know, decipher that screen pass and stop the guy in his tracks. They kick a field goal instead of a touchdown. Lawrence may never get a chance to get his game-winning kick. So he was a smart dude. Am I surprised he's a head coach? Not at all.
Tynes, you got to be ecstatic that a guy like AP is now a head. It can be interim, but a head coach and has the opportunity to possibly show the entire league what he can do, how he can be a fisher of men, how he can lead. What did AP? What was the interactions like with you guys? Story. You smiling too? It's nothing
man,
but good vibes, man.
He's one of one, right? When you think about Antonio Pierce and what he brought to a football team, the leadership, how people just gravitated towards him. He was an undrafted player. People forget that.
Yep.
Antonio Pierce was not drafted. He's from Compton. He is tough. He is everything you want a middle linebacker to be, and he's really, really, really smart. He obviously made up a lot of – he had some physical limitations. He was not the best athlete on the field. He was not the strongest guy in the weight room. But he could play football. And I think that's what you're going to get out of this Raiders team this week. People will follow Antonio Pierce just like we did. He's a leader. We all wore black suits to the Arizona Patriots Super Bowl 42 because it was the Patriots' funeral. He started that. It was his idea. I'm wearing this in honor of Antonio Pierce today because I love the guy. He's a great teammate, a great friend, and I'm happy for him. And listen, with a lot of talk about diversity in this NFL, let's not forget what the Raiders are doing here, right? A black executive with Champ Kelly and a black head coach in Antonio Pierce. And I hope he has the greatest 9-game stretch there can be where they give him consideration to get this job, because Antonio Pierce has coached at the high school level, he's coached at the college level, and he's coached at the NFL level. And think about this, he got the job over Patrick Graham, who was everyone said is a budding future head coach. Antonio Pierce is a linebacker coach. That's how much this organization thinks about him and these players think about him. So you can bet your butt that the Giants are going into a hornet's nest this week if I know anything about AP and how he's going to get those guys ready.
And I wonder if it was the players who kind of brought his name up to Mark Davis, because you heard the reports about Mark Davis having dinner with Max Crosby, having dinner with Devontae Adams. And you wonder if they were the guys who were like, you know what, we got this one coach, Coach Pierce, who he's a player's guy, he's a rah-rah guy, he's a leader. Let's bump him up. Let's see what he can do. And now I feel as though they're going to come out throwing. Defense is going to be playing on fire. These guys are going to be playing highly motivated. And my little quick AP story, I remember when I first got the Giants TV job. It was 2016. I was at a cigar bar in Hoboken, and he was there with Kavika Mitchell, all those guys. And I was talking to him. And I was like, hey, man, can you give me some tips on TV? And that was when he wanted to get out of TV. He had the NFL Live job, and he was saying how, the producers try and tell you to talk bad about a certain player and stuff. And he's like, I'm not like that. That's not my type of thing. That's when he was starting. He was like, I'm thinking about getting into coaching. I want to see what Herm does, XYZ. And I tried to get him to go with my dad. My dad joined my dad's staff, but he was like, nah, B. Lund, I'm not going 1AA or anything like that. But it was just one of those things where you could hear it, and now to be able to see the hard work. He went to Arizona State, worked his butt off, and now he gets that opportunity. So it just goes to show, like, we say he was undrafted. He used to say, I was drafted in the 8th round. A lot of guys just say they got drafted in that 8th round, and he'd be like, London, you better be busting your ass on special teams trying to make this team. You better be running down there. Who cares that you're in shells? You better run down there and show that you're around the ball during these drills and stuff like that to try and make this team. So that guy means so much to so many people in Giants. It's almost like you're torn between this game, because the Giants can't go to the playoffs if they, maybe they can if they win this game, but at the same time, you want to see the success for a guy like that. Tynes, you mentioned Patrick Graham. Here's another storyline. Former defensive coordinator for the Giants. Are you worried about the Raiders' defense? You think he's going to throw heat at them? Like, how do you feel Patrick Graham is going to go into this game?
Well, you got Shaplinski over there as well. I mean, there's some former Giants staffers there. I'm more worried about the emotion that the Raiders will play with just because of what's happened. And they did this a couple of years ago, if you remember, with Rich Bisaccia, this great special teams coach.
They do it every few years, Lawrence.
They do. And I think I heard some crazy number, Paul. Was it something of, I don't know, it's like 8 head coaches in 14 years or something like that. It's almost a coach every 2 years. But, this team has been through this. The turmoil with Rich Bisaccia, they get to the playoffs. They don't offer him the job. He was beloved by his team. The Raiders have issues organizationally, but I'm just this game gives me a little fear, a little pause if I'm a Giant fan, because of what Antonio Pierce can do to that locker room. And if you go back and watch his press conference yesterday with Champ Kelly, you're going to get a feel of what was said in that team meeting and what this team's going to be about on Sunday. And the only thing maybe helping the Giants right now is they're starting a rookie quarterback, a 4th-round quarterback, Aidan O'Connell. But this team's going to fly around and play spirited football. That's just pro football players galvanizing each other within the locker room. Teams do that. They're pros, and they've got a good roster. If you look at their roster, it's full of good players. The O-line's pretty good. Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. I mean, you go down the list, Max Crosby, Marcus Peters, a really good linebacker. I mean, they've got some pieces. So they just got to play as one, and I think Antonio can maybe, get them to do that.
Yeah, you mentioned rookie quarterback. They're also going to have a new signal caller. They fired offensive coordinator Mick Lombardi. Now Bo Hardegree, quarterbacks coach, gets bumped up. I mean, you love Wink. You understand Wink, what he brings to the table, but it's like you're preparing for the unknown when it comes to this team. I can see them changing up their complete identity when it comes to offense and getting the ball to the league leader in rushing last year, Josh Jacobs, getting the ball to one of the top receivers in the game, Devontae Adams. So who knows what to expect or what to prepare for when you're going into this week. Paul, any other storyline? What in terms of a writer, what's the best headline for you in this game in terms of storylines?
Well, a couple of things. Don't forget, Patrick Graham, a lot of times when a team does this, they don't want to take a coordinator. Like if you make Patrick Graham the head coach, right? Now who's calling the defense?
Yeah.
Right.
He won't be able to do both. So they fire the offensive coordinator. They bump up the quarterback's coach. That's fine. And now Patrick Graham can stay as the defensive coordinator, and Antonio Pierce, he's the linebacker coach. They can make up that position during the game. You know what I mean? So it makes sense. And also, look, this is the Raiders, right? Antonio Pierce and the Raiders certainly makes sense. You could see Al Davis would have liked Antonio Pierce. I guess the son likes him too, Mark Davis. The Raiders are a commitment to mediocrity. That's what they are. I mean, they're it's not commitment to excellence because they fire people who they shouldn't fire. They hire people they shouldn't hire. I mean, Josh McDaniels is the first coach, guys, in NFL history to be fired in the second year of his job twice before the end of the season by two different franchises. Okay, so two different franchises before the second year said, we've had enough of you. I mean, he was a bad hire to start with. What did he get? 6 years? I think, did he get a 6-year contract?
He's got 4 years left.
6 year, yeah.
4 years left.
They will pay him 4 more years, to go be an offensive analyst for Bill Belichick again, or whatever the heck he does. I mean, it's the team didn't like him. I mean, what do you think Davante Adams thinks about, Josh McDaniels? You know what I mean? I mean, he started Brian Hoyer in a game instead of, it just made no sense. He's a bad coach. I guess he can run an offense. He couldn't run an offense as the head coach. We talked to Brian Daboll. You asked me about a storyline. I mean, Brian Daboll now, he gets up on Wednesday morning, right? And it's like, okay, they have a new offensive coordinator. They can't put in a whole new playbook, but we have no history of what this guy's going to do. Okay, now they're putting in a rookie quarterback who has started a game. So they have film on him starting a game, and they have, he came in off the bench one game. So they have some of that. They have preseason looks on him. They have some of that. But yes, they don't know exactly what, they don't think, Daboll said, look, they're not going to change everything. The defensive coordinator's there. You can't change everything in a week, but do they go back to, running the ball? Josh Jacobs is averaging 3.1 yards a carry. I mean, how is that possible? 3.1 yards a carry for the guy. But as you guys said, I guarantee you, what did Davante Adams have? 1 or 2 targets last week? Antonio Pierce will tell.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Throw the ball to him, okay? I used to play defense. I know that guy could beat an offense. Just throw the ball to him. So it will look different. The Giants don't know how different it will look.
Final thoughts in this A block before we throw to Know Your Enemy, guys. Final thoughts.
Well, listen, I think the Giants, this is a scary game for the Giants, to be honest with you. I mean, they have to go in here and beat a team that's reeling with an interim head coach. And that's going to be a challenge. But the Giants just have to focus on who they are. Don't worry about the offensive coordinator and what that offense is going to look like. The defense we know can play at a high level. So not much worried there. Just interested to see if there's any rust with Andrew Thomas and Daniel Jones and Saquon and this whole offensive unit without Waller. So that would be my concerns right now.
Paul, another thing, the Giants are going out there with Leonard Williams. First game without Leonard Williams. What were your thoughts on the trade? Do you think the Giants won that trade?
Well, let's see who they pick with the second-round pick next year.
Right.
Look. It's hard to slap anybody on the back and say, great job with the trade when you just made your team weaker. You just made your team weaker. There's no question about it. And they did not shop Leonard Williams. I know for a fact Joe Schoen wasn't on the phone saying, you want this guy, you want this guy. They came to him. Seattle came to him. And once that second-round pick was floated out there, Schoen said, okay, we got to think about this hard. They brought Leonard Williams in. They talked about it. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? And, with his blessing, they sent him to, not that they needed his blessing, but they sent him to Seattle. He just went from a 2-6 team to a 5-2 team. I don't know what he thinks about Seattle, but it's not a bad way to go into a contender. What I think about the Leonard Williams trade is it reverberated in the locker room. Okay. Xavier McKinney said, I hate it. Okay. I hate it. He was a leader, and he said, it sucks to lose a guy of his caliber. And he said, interesting, McKinney was treading the line here. He said, I thought our mindset as a team was to win right now, not future stuff. Okay, this is not popular. You guys know, if you trade away a good player, it's not popular. Dexter Lawrence looked like he just lost his best friend. Yeah. Dexter Lawrence, it's interesting though, and this is smart when you talk about Antonio Pierce being a leader. That locker, right? Leonard Williams' locker now becomes empty, right? Bobby Okereke went into that locker. Smart, right? Smart. To kind of like, I'm going to be here for Dexter. I know Dexter's hurting now. I'm the middle linebacker, right, guys? Yeah. Smart. Antonio Pierce would have done something like that. Quietly, I got you, man. I know you're a team, because look, Dexter and Leonard were very close. Dexter said he did not see it coming. I was naive to it. And he said, I didn't see why, and I still don't understand why. Dexter is kind of like he's a little bit of a naive guy in a good way, in a positive way. I just go play my butt off, and we all go play our butts off, and The record is what it is. We just go play. I dominate the guy, across from me 80% of the time, which is what he does. He said, I don't understand it. So that is a storyline. If things get tough inside there this week, and how it affects Dexter. I mean, there's no question Leonard Williams did a lot of sacrificing to have Dexter's kind of star on this defensive line now. So, A'Shawn Robinson's okay, but he's not Leonard Williams. So that is something to watch, the repercussions on the field and off the field, because as much as oh, no, we're not raising the white flag. We're not raising the white flag. You just gave a really good player away, and they may get a great player with the second-round pick, or they may get a bum with the second-round pick. We don't know. And the guys in the locker room don't give a darn about that second-round pick right now. They don't give a darn about it. They know that one of their best players left, and that's something to watch.
Tynes, back in 2007, I don't think we had a player traded at the deadline. So that's not something that we would worry about having to linger over and all at that time. But you think with this Giants team, you think you can see a change in effort or lack of going forward?
I don't think so. The NFL is a business. It's the unfortunate part when you lose good players. But a second-round pick, if you look across the league, Chase Young, they only gave a third-round pick for him.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a 30-year-old defensive tackle who's been good, not great, and you get a second and a fifth. I just think the value was too good to pass up. And it sounds to me, if you listen to the conversation and you listen to Leonard Williams' press conference in Seattle, they gave him the say-so whether he could stay or go. It felt like I'm not putting words in his mouth, but it sounded like Joe Schoen kept him and his agent informed of the whole process, and Leonard and his agent decided to leave. So you can look at it that way too. Don't look at it like the Giants shipped him off, because they really didn't. You'd almost say Leonard Williams wanted to leave, which it sounds like he did. So if I'm the Giants, I don't really, in the locker room, I just say, he made a business decision for himself, because he is a free agent at the end of the year. Seattle's a good team. He's got Julian Love out there. I think Leonard's from the West Coast, so I wish him well. I think he's an awesome Giant. I think he's a great guy, fun guy. People loved him, and that's why it hurts. It hurts more because you lose a good guy.
Yeah.
Football piece is the football piece. We've got guys that will hopefully, in numbers, do what he can do. But that's why it sucks, because you lose a good dude from the locker room.
Yeah, if you guys follow Leonard Williams on Instagram, right now his IG story is still up. He's in the locker room, Frank Clark, all those guys bouncing around. And then you see he's quoted saying it feels good to play for a winning team. At the end of the day, like you said, it's a business decision. Players, we want to go to the playoffs. You want to play in the playoffs. You want to win the Super Bowl. So he did a great job putting himself in position to get closer to winning a Super Bowl and achieving that ultimate goal. All right, we broke that down. Great A-block, guys. A lot of storylines going on in this game. Obviously, Josh McDaniels out, Antonio Pierce in. Let's see how Raider Nation feels about everything that's going on with this team. I caught up with Graphk Raider of the OLV Raiders Network in this week's Know Your Enemy. Let's break down Sunday's Giants-Raiders matchup with Graphk Raider of OLV Raiders Network on YouTube. My man, thanks for jumping on with us. Where are you at right now? It looks like you're in the Raiders locker room right now.
This is exactly where we got rid of Josh McDaniels and David Ziegler.
All right. Well, thank you for helping them pack. I hope you brought them to their Uber. Let's start with that news. Obviously, they got fired in the wee hours of the nights. Give us your thoughts on their short time as head coach and GM. Do you think that firing them after only 8 games was the way to go?
I think it was. In terms of Josh McDaniels, I thought that Ziegler would have a little bit more leash, but it ended up being true that they were a package deal. The players, Devontae Adams was fed up. Max Crosby, there was a lot of rumblings about these superstars being disgruntled behind the scenes. And apparently Mayor Mark, took it upon himself to go actually have some lunch and speak with a few of his superstar players. And they kind of shared, their experiences with Josh McDaniels and the culture that he was trying to build. And it just wasn't a good one, man. And, with Max Crosby, with being in his prime right now, Devontae Adams being in his prime, it's like you have to take advantage of that. And right now, this just isn't good football. Man, we're one of the highest paid offenses in the NFL. I think $105 million directed towards the offense. And we have one of the most miserable offenses in the NFL. And it just doesn't make any sense. And we haven't been able to find a way to get Devontae Adams involved in the game. It's just, I think the game is passed up, Josh. McDaniels And I just think without Tom Brady and Bill Belichick there, it's just not what it's supposed to be. I think that Tom Brady is the system. I don't think that Josh McDaniels is the system.
Well, that's the player's point of view. You mentioned Max Crosby and Devontae Adams. Fan-wise, this Raiders fan base, they'll let you know when they have a problem with you. What was kind of like the fan reaction to it all out there?
We were kind of all holding pitchforks, man. I'm gonna be honest. For a minute there, everybody was ready to boycott, not go watch the games. It's very tough, man. We've already been through 40 years of football purgatory as is. We haven't won anything really since 83, 84. And, we just thought with him coming in, instantly making the trade for Devontae Adams, bringing him in to pair him with Derek Carr, his best friend, we just thought that we were on the rise. You go get Chandler Jones in free agency. Now you see what happened with him. You move on from Darren Waller, which you guys have now, which ended up being a good deal for us. That's with Raider Nation. We kind of got tired of the injuries piling up. But Hunter Renfrow, a guy that, was a Pro Bowler in 2021 and led us in receptions. This was the guy in receiving yards that we thought was going to be that slot presence that Josh McDaniels liked to utilize, like his time with the Edelmans, those guys in New England. And he hasn't found a way to get him, utilized. And for Hunter, a guy that's so calm, cool, and collected, for him to want to get out of Las Vegas, it's clearly a problem, man. So it's just the writing was on the wall. It looked as though the players weren't fighting for him against the Chicago Bears. It just was a terrible effort a few weeks back, and just another poor performance Monday night. It was time, man. Ziegler, though, I was kind of a little shocked because, we haven't really got a chance to see what his first two drafts, look like. The first one doesn't look really too good outside of Dylan Parham, our starting left guard. But, with Zeus, our backup running back, and Britton Brown, a lot of these guys, they're not getting any reps, or they're on the IR for, Matthew Butler, another defensive tackle that's on the practice squad. Neil Farrell, he's a chief. That first draft class, I'm like, I'm going to give Ziegler a little wiggle room because he traded our first and second round draft picks for Devontae Adams.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yep. This draft, I thought we had a great draft, but they haven't found a way to get these guys involved in the offense. Trey Tucker, a guy that we used that Darren Waller pick for, who was a playmaker, they can't find a way to get the ball in his hands. Michael Mayer, probably the best tight end in this draft, haven't found a way to get him. It's just, he hasn't done anything right, man.
A whole laundry list of things you can list off right now, but it's a new day in Vegas. Interim head coach Antonio Pierce takes over. He knows the Giants organization very well. He's actually one of my former teammates. So what are you expecting from AP on his head coaching debut?
I'm expecting, he's a rah-rah guy. He's a player type guy. They're going to fight for him. And we already have the talent on this roster. That's the thing. Like, I don't know what happened. It had to just been Ziegler and Josh McDaniels that happened to this team, because there's so much talent across the board. The offensive line gotten worse, in year two under him. I think that these guys are going to come out and fight. I think Josh Jacobs is going to have his first 100-yard, game against the New York Giants. I think that Antonio Pierce is going to preach to these guys how much this game means to him, because this is his former team. And I think Devontae and Max are going to they're going to feast this upcoming week because of it. And I like Antonio Pierce. I think he's going to allow his guys to do what they do. Patrick Graham, our defensive coordinator, which has looked good these past 2 or 3 weeks. I think he's not going to change too much on the defensive side of the ball. I just think that he's going to be that guy that the players can go to. He's going to be the guy that's going to be in those pressers saying, put it on me, it's my fault. He's not going to be the guy like Josh McDaniels throwing his players under the bus. Yeah. And I'm excited to see, these guys fight for him, because he was a player. He knows what these guys are going through. And I'm just excited to see him on the sideline first time with a headset on, man. I'm really excited to see what he can look like against his former team.
Yeah, you mentioned Patrick Graham. He was former Giants defensive coordinator. Seems like there's all types of ties in this game. We'll talk about the defense in a little bit. Let's talk about this offense. News broke that the Raiders are promoting quarterbacks coach Bo Hardegree to offensive coordinator. What do you think the Raiders offense is going to look like on Sunday with Hardegree calling the plays? And there's even more news. What's your thoughts on Jimmy G getting benched and the team going with Aidan O'Connell as QB1?
I was a little shocked about the Bo Hardegree. I thought it was going to be Mick Lombardi. Then they ended up firing him. Then I thought it was going to be Scott Turner. a guy that we brought over from the Commanders. I thought maybe they would hand the keys to him. But to see Bo Harder was a shocker to me. I'm going to be honest. Just like it was a shocker that I seen Antonio Pierce, I thought Patrick Graham or Rob Ryan would have been the ones, one of those guys to be the head coach moving forward as the intern. But I expect not too much change. I think that he's just going to let the players go out there and play to their strengths.
Yeah.
It's a short week now without Josh McDaniels here. So maybe a little more vanilla offense. Josh McDaniels, he tries to overcomplicate things. He wants to look like the smartest guy in the room. And I'm not trying to beat him up now that he's not here, but it's just true. And I think that, with Bo, I think he's going to go out there. He's never been an offensive coordinator, in his career. I just think that he's going to go out there and say, look, you guys go play your game. You know the playbook. It's too early to change anything. Just go out there and play your game. And I'm excited about Aidan O'Connell. With Jimmy G and Brian Hoyer, what they're good at. You know what they're bad at. Most importantly, you know what they're bad at. You know what you're getting with these guys. With Aidan, he's the only question mark. And, when he came in against the Chargers last minute, had a poor game. I mean, he's a rookie. He hasn't had any real reps at the NFL level. Had a few fumbles, but he has the arm, to spread the defense out. And that's what we've been missing with Jimmy G. They've just been stacking the box and not allowing Josh Jacobs to get his game going. And with Aidan, he can let that thing fly. So I'm excited to see, what the young kid can do out of Purdue. He can make every pass. There's always been the comparison, with this throwing movement of Tom Brady. He has the velocity. He has everything it takes to get it done at the next level. I'm just excited to see, because he's a question mark. We don't know what he can do and what he can't do. We know what these other guys can and can't do. So I'm just excited to see what this kid can do. And it's a young quarterbacks league. It's not like back in the day where you can go get one of these former all-pro first ballot guys and just they'll come in and win you a championship. This is the Patrick Mahomes league, the Josh Allen, the Joe Burrow league. I'm excited to see what this young guy can do Sunday against the Giants.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what Wink Martindale is going to do when it comes to how he's going to play him, how much time or how much film he's been able to watch. Because like you said, young guy came in late in that Chargers game, doesn't have too many reps to put on tape. But at the end of the day, you got to stop Devontae Adams because the ball. I'm thinking at least 12 targets to Devontae Adams. But that's going to be a great matchup to watch him against Tay Banks. He's been pretty lights out in terms of playing that corner in his rookie year for the New York Giants. Let's Riverside it. Talk defensively. Patrick Graham is your DC. Max Crosby is the man. 6.5 sacks on the year. It's looking like Daniel Jones is going to be back as quarterback one this Sunday. The Giants offense really doesn't score that much. So you think the Raiders defense has the advantage in this matchup, and why?
I do. Daniel Jones, man, one thing he can do is escape the pocket and make plays with his legs. That offensive line has been really poor out there for the Giants this year. I do expect Max Crosby to have a big game, especially with the news coming of Josh McDaniels, being relieved of his duties. I'm expecting a big game also from our other side, the edge rusher Tyree Wilson, our first-round pick out of Texas Tech. I truly believe that he's gonna unlock that full potential this weekend. The defensive line has been kind of a blessing in disguise this year. It's kind of been a little quiet from the interior of the defensive line, but I'm just hoping that the two edge rushers can open up that D-line this week and get to Daniel Jones. One thing we have to do is try and keep him in the pocket as much as possible because, we call him Vanilla Vic around here. He can get loose and he uses those legs. He can definitely destroy you. I know he's just coming back from that injury, so I don't know really what to expect from Daniel Jones. I kind of liked what Tyrod Taylor was looking like in that offense. That's not really saying much because we both have two poor offenses, but I think this weekend with Aidan O'Connell, the offense finally explodes. Man, Max, big day for Max. Yeah. Maybe even another pick six from the veteran Marcus Peters. He finally got his feet wet against Detroit. I think Graham's going to have these guys ready. This means a lot to him as well, facing his former team. So, man, I don't really know what to expect from that offense. Is Darren Waller, is the hammy? Is it there? Is
he's limited in practice, so it's one of those things where we're going to see how he feels, I guess, on game day. But Giants offense definitely needs him in that lineup. And then you got the receivers on the outside, the big play receivers, if they have time for Vanilla Vic to get the ball downfield, really push the ball downfield. And that's something Tyrod Taylor did very well. So it's going to be interesting to see Daniel Jones, Mike Kafka go up against Patrick Graham, Max Crosby, and the rest of this Raiders defense. Graphk Raider, tell the people real quick where they can find you at.
Oh, man, OLV Raiders Network on YouTube, Twitter, at Graphk Raider, and on Instagram, at Graphk916, also oaklasvegas.com. So salute to you, man. Hey, I want to say this, too. I can't wait to see Ja'Cory and Ben and Banks out there reuniting those Maryland boys.
Okay.
It's going to be some fun watching those guys out there at the corner position come Sunday, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game, man. And can you tell whoever left their slippers out in the background? Come on, man, clean that up. The locker room looks clean. That's a fine, bro. That's a fine. But appreciate you jumping on with us, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you for having me, brother.
Graphk Raider. Appreciate that, my man. Raider Nation is just as much, if not as excited for Antonio Pierce to be coaching in his first game as a lot of Giants fans are. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Appreciate him coming on. Now it's time for the prop bets, the random stats, the predictions, and, of course, the final thought. Guys, I got 3 random stats that I grabbed off the web, and I'm going to put you guys on the spot. You each get 20 seconds to answer to it and why. Paul, I'm going to get you on first, Paul. Here we go. The Raiders are winless when tied at the end of the first quarter since the 2021 season. That's tied for worst in the NFL. Which team is winning at the end of the first quarter and why? 20 seconds, go.
Giants will be leading because they score a ton of points in the first. Oh, no, they don't score a ton of points in the first quarter. But Wink Martindale against a rookie quarterback and Daniel Jones back in the saddle, I think will add some stability. So I think the Giants get out to a good start here. They'll be winning after the first quarter.
Tynes.
Yeah, easy one for me. Saquon, Daniel Jones, Jalen Hyatt, Andrew Thomas, most important piece, I think, on the whole offense. Give me the Giants. I think they're 7-0 first quarter. Giants will have the lead in the first quarter.
I'm thinking 0-0 in this first one. I know the emotions are going to be high. You might see a flea flicker or something, but I don't think anyone's going to get into the end zone or put anything up on the board. That's going to be something to watch, though, that first quarter for sure. Tynes, I'm going to start with you. The Raiders are winless, 0-3, when making less than 5 explosive passes in a game this season. That's tied for the worst in the NFL. How many do they have this game?
I think they'll have less than 5. So, this rookie quarterback, he'll be able to get the ball. Looks like studying the film, he likes Jacoby Myers a lot. It seems like he's open. He tries to get the ball to Davante Adams a lot, but I think that's going to be the Giants' focus on defense is Davante Adams. They'll give some underneath stuff, but he'll have under 5 explosive plays.
Paul.
I think under 5 now. The last we saw the Giants defense, they were giving up back-to-back 29-yard catches at the end of regulation, which is just sickening, and it was just an awful way to end that game. A really good defensive performance, but a different situation here. But I do think they're going to try to force feed Davante Adams, like you guys said. I mean, Antonio Pierce is there, and it just, Josh McDaniels is not there, and they're just going to throw the ball to him a lot. But I think under 5. 5's a lot.
I'm going to go with the over on this one. I'll go with maybe 5. He's going to have 3 on his own. This is the man that when you see a helmet get slammed and he's cursing and he gets the out, you have the meeting with the owner. He's going to put it upon himself to try and win this game. He wants targets. He wants the ball. And we're talking about a generational wide receiver. I think he gets 3 on his own. The other 2, I don't know where they come from, but I think Davante Adams gets 3. Last but not least, who did I start off with? Well, I'll go to you, Tynes. The Raiders are winless when committing 2 or more turnovers this season. That's tied for worst in the NFL. Raiders turnovers, 1.5 over under.
Yeah, over for me. The Giants have done a really nice job in the last 3 games of getting turnovers. Last 4, really. Oddly enough, they have not converted those into victories. But I think against a rookie quarterback, we saw what they did against Sam Howell in the Commanders. This guy's even younger, more inexperienced. I'll go over here for sure.
Paul.
I mean, the smart money is probably over. I'll go under just because I think they may be careful with this quarterback. I think they may, as much as we want to say they're going to throw the ball down the field and target Davante Adams, which I just said, he is a rookie. And as long as Josh Jacobs can get anything, the guy's not he's averaging 3.1 yards a game, but he's a really good running back. He had 1,600 yards last year. So I think they're going to try to do more of that. So I'll say under just because I don't think they want to put this rookie quarterback in harm's way if they can help it.
I'm going to go over. I think they get one interception, but I think either Micah McFadden or Bobby Okereke punches a ball out and creates some sort of fumble. Those two, they've been absolutely lights out the last couple of games, so I see them being the turnover machine that they are and really anchoring that linebacker core. All right. Now it's time to get into the player prop bets. We've been talking about Davante Adams. Obviously, he's going to get, I think, over 10 targets this game. Paul, I'll start with you. Davante Adams, 74.5 receiving yards, over under. Go.
History says no based on this season, but I'm going to say yes. I agree. Like I said, I don't think they're going to turn this rookie quarterback loose, but they're going to have to throw the ball to somebody. He's a really, really, really good player. I don't know about generational, as you said, but he's really, really good. Yeah, I think I'll go. He can get 75 receiving yards for sure.
Tynes.
I'm going to say under, and here's why. The bank is closed on Sunday, and Deonte Banks is probably going to travel with him. And I'll say this, the chemistry. Where's the chemistry between Aidan O'Connell and Davante Adams? That takes a lot of reps, thousands and thousands of reps. I think there'll be some miscommunications. Deonte Banks gets his hands on some footballs. I think under.
The bank is closed, but I see Aidan O'Connell using the mobile app. I think Davante Adams, I think he's going to go over 74.5. I think he'll have like a $120. This is just one of those games where he's just going to star and shine. Josh Jacobs, 73.5 rush yards, over, under. Tynes, go.
This is the one I like over. Knowing Antonio Pierce and what he's about, I think they're going to come in and really, like Paul mentioned earlier, protect his quarterback a little bit. I think they really lean on the run. Their offensive line is pretty good. They've got some big guys up there, strong guys, continuity, and Josh Jacobs is a good runner. So I'm going to say over here. I think he gets going a little bit. Again, the Giants have consistently let people run the ball except for last week against the Jets. So I'll say over for Josh Jacobs here.
Paul.
Yeah, the Giants did a great job on Breece Hall last week. They lost him on a screen pass for 50 yards, but he did not gain anything on the ground at all. That was a great job by them. I'm going to say over because of the attempts. I think he's going to get a bunch of attempts. Look, here's the thing. I don't know if any of us, I'm not going to speak for you two guys, but does any of us think the Giants are going to get a big lead here? The Giants never get a big lead, right? They barely get a lead ever. So are they going to make the Raiders throw the ball? Probably not. It'll probably be a one-score game most of the way here. So they won't be, out of sorts offensively. So I think Josh Jacobs gets, more than 20 carries, and he can get 75 yards with more than 20 carries for sure.
You're going to say more than 20 carries to a receiver? Wow. We're going to watch a run game. I think it's going to be the under on this one. Leonard Williams may be gone, but A'Shawn Robinson, Nacho stepping in the game, and maybe even Jordan Raleigh getting bumped up. I look at his spot, that's something that could be interchangeable with the new player. As long as Dexter Lawrence is still the anchor within that defensive line, I see the defensive line still being solid. And the Giants defense has done a great job against the run these last couple of weeks. So I'm going to go under on this one. Jacoby Myers, 52.5 receiving yards. I have him on my fantasy. Paul, over under. Tynes, go ahead, because I think Paul froze up. So Jacoby Myers, 52.5 receiving yards, over, under.
Yeah, over for me. This looks like Aidan O'Connell's favorite target, watching the two games back that he's played in. He really likes Jacoby Myers, and Jacoby Myers is a good player. He's open a lot. Cordell Flott will probably get that assignment. But I think, that's a mid number, 54, 55 yards. I think Jacoby Myers goes over that and has a pretty solid game. So over for me.
Paul.
I think under because, I can't keep on saying that they're going to protect the quarterback. And I think Davante Adams is going to have a bunch of yards and give everybody a bunch of yards and then say they're protecting the quarterback and they're going to run the ball. So I'll say under. Dory Jackson, that last awful pass interference penalty notwithstanding in the overtime against the Jets, is a good enough player to deal with Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I'm going to go under as well. I think Hunter Renfrow gets some balls this game. I think that's another guy you got to add to this offense. They also have a really good tight end, man. He made some really big catches against the Lions. I forget his name. It's escaping me right now. But I think that ball gets, if you are going to protect him, and Davante Adams will have safety help over the top of him. Michael Mayer is the tight end. I see Aidan O'Connell spreading the ball out and just taking what the defense gives him. There was only one player prop bet I saw for the Giants this week. Obviously, it's It's with Saquon, 71.5 rush yards. Paul, I'll go with you. Over under.
Over. He's you got a guy on a 1-year contract. He came back and had, how many carries did he have in Buffalo? A ton, right?
Yeah.
They're not like, let's save Saquon here for anything. 36 carries last week. I mean, that was incredibly impressive performance. Not that he had 1,000,000 yards. He had 128, but that literally they handed the ball to him, and everybody in the building and all 11 players on the Jets knew he was going to get the ball, and he endured. He didn't, like I said, he didn't run for 300 yards, but he endured. Very tough situation, and got better as the game went on. So I think they'll Daniel likes Saquon. He'll hand the ball to Saquon. He'll find a way to get 72 yards in this game, sure.
Tynes.
Yeah, I think over. You're going against the 30th ranked rush defense. They give up 140 yards a game. And to your point, we didn't get to talk about it enough because of all the other storylines. One of the best games I've ever seen Saquon Barkley have in his career. And you can call that hyperbolic, whatever you want to do. But as the game went on, he just really looked stronger, almost like one of those mid-90s Emmitt Smith type of games where you just feed the running backs. Hated that they lost the game because that was fun to watch. So easy for me, 30th ranked rush defense, Saquon goes over.
Yeah, I'm going to go over as well. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs with the Lions and what they were able to get, like 8, 9 a pop with him sometimes on those first down runs. I see Saquon hitting that hole, getting up the field, getting north-south. You don't see him dance that much anymore. He's picking a hole, and he's getting running straight through it, and he's running angry almost. So I go over on that one. Total points, 37.5. Tynes, go ahead.
The Giants average 11.9 and the Raiders average 15.8. So I'm just going to go back to my Troy University degree and do math, simple math here. It doesn't pencil, so I'm going to go under.
No need for the TI-83 calculator on that one. You can just go ahead and do the math yourself.
Two of the worst teams on offense scoring in the league.
Paul.
Far be it from me to go against the renowned Troy mathematics department. They teach math at Troy. They taught math at Troy.
They do.
Lawrence.
They do. Yeah.
They do. Okay. Good. They said you kick the ball through the uprights. That's 3 points, right? That was the math. Yep. I'm going to say over. I'm going to say over. I mean, I think we're downplaying Daniel Jones coming back. I mean, he's a better quarterback than Tyrod Taylor. He's a better quarterback than Tommy DeVito, obviously. I think he's refreshed, and I think he's going to bring something to this offense. And they may score 2 touchdowns in the game. They really might. And then Graham Gano, we have to talk about Graham Gano. Hopefully he gets out to a nice surface in Vegas and kicks a few field goals and get this stuff out of his head. And I think the Raiders will score a little bit too. So you don't need to score a ton of points to get over 37.5. I think it's going to be over.
The way our eyes just lit up when he said 2 touchdowns, Tynes, that's we're sitting here. They're gonna score 2 touchdowns.
We'll just be
2 touchdowns.
We're gonna be.
Oh man.
God. Fireworks.
I'm going under on this one. Just like again, the math ain't mathing until, like Paul says, until they prove it. They got to prove that they can go out there and score some points. All right, final thoughts. Paul, you go first. I'll go second. And Tynes, of course, like always, kick us home.
All right, final thoughts, Brandon. I had to mention this to you. Tall, lanky wide receiver, right? You don't like hearing about all these guys running the ball. I asked Darius Slayton this week. He had 74 snaps on offense, right? 2 targets in the game. Darius Slayton was really funny. You know what he said? He said, "Yeah, when you're 9 years old, you don't dream about lining up every play and knocking heads with the safety." And it was like, yeah, that was a bizarre game, wasn't it? Yeah. He's a piece of work, Darius Slayton. He's a great guy. He didn't complain. He said, yeah, it's not what you dream about when you're 9 years old. I'm sure it wasn't. I think this game will be played differently. He'll have more than 2 targets. My final thoughts are that an otherwise blah game between 2 teams that aren't going to make the playoffs is rejuvenated because Antonio Pierce is the coach on the other side, and because Daniel Jones is coming back. And like I mentioned earlier, this is not some guy on the last year of his contract. We got to see Daniel pick it up here and everything like that. So I'm interested in seeing that. So I am, and I think the Giants can win this game because of that.
If I was to talk to the Giants players, I'd tell them you beat the business. Now don't let the business beat you. If you're still in that locker room, you didn't get traded away. They have value for you. They have future plans for you, whether it be with the team long term or maybe ship you out later on. But right now, you beat the business of it. Line up with your teammates. Line up with the guys that are there. Go out and beat the business. You're playing a team that just had to make a business decision when it came to their coaching staff. You're playing a team that made a business move to bring up a former player who can galvanize the locker room, bring guys together, get these guys with a lot of energy to go out and try and fight you into a straight-up dogfight. That's Antonio Pierce. That's what he's preaching these guys. Be smart, play together, and to fight hard. So you beat the business. Now don't let the business beat you. Go out there to Vegas, win this game. Mathematically, you're not out of the playoffs yet, but just take it one game at a time. Don't let the business beat you. Tynes, kick us home.
Yeah, no props this week. They don't deserve them. Going out to Vegas, this is going to be a tough challenge. I think early. I think the spirited football will show up early. The Giants are a better football team. And when you get Daniel Jones back, you get Andrew Thomas back, you get your pieces back. Last time Daniel Jones and Saquon were on the field together, they scored 31 points in a half. I think the offense will get going to some extent. I still think it'll be a little rusty. Waller's not going to be there. But there's must-win games. There's things like that. This is a can't-lose game. You cannot, if you're Brian Dable, lose this game. You absolutely cannot lose this football game. You cannot go out to an interim head coach and lose to the Raiders. I love Antonio Pierce, and I hope he wins every game after this one, and I'm going to be rooting for him, and I'll be pulling for him a little bit tomorrow, Sunday. But you can't lose this game. So give me the Giants here, 20-7. I think it's comfortable. I think it's a comfortable win. I think it'll be enjoyable for Giants fans. Finally, we deserve it. But give me the Giants here comfortably, 20-7.
Tynes, you know who lost to an interim head coach last year?
I do. It was the Raiders. Jeff Saturday beat them last year.
Yep.
Do they return the favor?
Go ahead.
I hope not. My God. Dable's seat's not hot. I really don't believe that.
No.
But you lose this game, and you got Dallas next week. Oh, boy. Yeah, not good. Got to win this one. Can't lose. It's a can't lose.
Can't lose this game. Hey, great show, fellas. Paul, safe travels out there to Vegas. Remember, put 15 down on black for me.
Stay off the slot machines, Paul. Stay off the slots. I don't want to see a picture of you on TMZ next to Mark Davis playing Wheel of Fortune.
What happens in Vegas with me stays in Vegas, guys. That's it.
All right.
All right, you're not going to hear it on the post-game show. But thanks for watching the Blue Rush preview show. And make sure you keep up with Blue Rush by subscribing to the show and the podcast on whichever podcast platform you prefer, and by subscribing to the New York Post Sports and SNY YouTube pages. New episodes come out Mondays after the game and Thursdays going into the game. It's Giants Raiders live from Vegas on Sunday. For Lawrence Tynes, Paul Schwartz, and our entire production staff, I'm Brendan London. Thanks for watching Blue Rush.